Hello guys, Quel'Thalas here, and welcome back to another episode of World of Warcraft Leveling Legacy. This episode is going to be a little different, because the previous characters that we've leveled up have all had updated level zones up to Cataclysm, the expansion that was released back in 2010. This was something I talked about in the first episode of the series. The Blood Elves and the Draenei, respectively, have had no updates to their starting zones since 2007. This means that they're, well, it's not actually correct. They have updated the introduction, like the narration video with the guy talking in the background. Those are updated, but the quest lines are still the same from back in the Burning Crusade. So what this means is that the quests and the story doesn't really fit into the continuity that we have experienced with our characters. With the Worgen, we had some time jumps, and they worked well because they were intended by Blizzard to be implemented this way. But with the Draenei and the Blood Elves, this is a bit different. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at the intro movie, and then I'm going to go around in the starting areas, point out important lore stuff. We're going to have a chat about the lore of the Blood Elves. We're going to talk about the origin, how they became so different from the Night Elves and stuff like that. And I'm going to show off the starting areas of Eversong Woods and the Ghostlands. And then we will continue off regularly with the next race.
The past few years have seen unprecedented changes within the eternal land of Quel'Thalas. The Blood Elves, following the will of their crazed leader Kael'thas Sunstrider, channeled dangerous, chaotic magics to transform their sacred Sunwell into a gateway of unspeakable evil. While Kael'thas and his demonic masters were eventually defeated, a different kind of transformation occurred within the Sunwell itself, as a dying Naru sacrificed its life essence to reignite the Sunwell into a fount of holy energy. Now, the Blood Elf regent Lor'themar Theron sees a new hope on the horizon for his people. Over time, the Sunwell's light could cure the Blood Elves of their cursed state. But many still cling to the arcane powers they've procured and are hesitant to relinquish them. As one of the remaining Blood Elves, you must fight to protect Quel'Thalas and help redeem the soul of your ancient people.
So there we heard a lot of information about the Blood Elves. As I said, the info in the video there is all updated up until the Cataclysm. However, the storylines are still from back in 2007, the quest lines before the Burning Crusade storyline. So the way I wanted to do this, as you can see, I am on another character here. This guy's name is Etheras. He is my level 100 Fire Mage. But I'm doing this for the purpose of showing you guys the zone, and he fits like the character, the archetype of the Blood Elves pretty well. He has the Sunwell armor and the Sunwell staff for a fire, a mage, I guess. And the character we are going to play as with a Blood Elf would be a fire mage as well. So here we are currently on Sunstrider Isle, named after the Sunstrider family of Blood Elves. It is located far, far to the north on the Eastern Kingdom's continent. Up at the top here, you can see we have two zones that are heavily related up here, north of the Eastern Plaguelands. So we are sort of close to the Undead starting zone right here, the Tirisfal Glades. We have the Ghostlands to the south, and we have Eversong Woods to the north, with Silvermoon City being the capital for the Blood Elves. Also notably is the Isle of Quel'Thalas, which is a little island here up to the north of the continent. So as I said, we have Sunstrider Isle right here, with the Falthrian Academy down south. We have the Sunspire to the northeast, and we have Shrine of Dath-Remar. And now, the Sunstriders are really important for the Blood Elves. And by the way, just preface this, the Blood Elf lore is one of the Elven lore is some of my favorite lore tidbits in the game. As I do love the story of how their empire kind of rose to its greatness and then it fell again, and now they are rebuilding. But we'll get into that eventually. The architecture is also beautiful. Silvermoon is one of the most beautiful cities in the game. It is too bad that the zone is so still outdated, and there is no flying allowed in this zone as a consequence of that. Here we have the Shrine of Dath-Remar Sunstrider. You have discovered the location of the shrine. Upon further examinations, you sense a stronger pulse of the strange power that has gripped the isle. You feel a bit uncomfortable standing by the shrine, and perhaps a little disturbed. The bronze placard along the side of the shrine reads, "Here stands the shrine of Dath'Remar, a fitting tribute to a noble elf. Let all who gaze on this monument remember his sacrifice for our people, and his dedication to the cause of our continued survival. All who prosper in Quel'Thalas do so thanks to him." So Dath'Remar Sunstrider was the first king of Quel'Thalas. He didn't really have political power as a king would have compared to the other kings in Azeroth, but he did have the position of the Blood Elf, or the elf leader. Now, currently, the elves, like this guy here, they are called Blood Elves, but previously they were known as the High Elves. Now, if you paid attention during my Night Elf videos, then some bells will ring right there, and you will see some familiarity between these elves and the Night Elves. Yeah, these guys are the same as, well, the Blood Elves are the name-changed version of the High Elves. The High Elves were basically, as we move towards Silvermoon here, we approach Dawning Lane here. This area is so freaking beautiful. Oh my god, look at this. I just get distracted so easily here. It's such a beautiful place with the redness, and yeah. But they were High Elves. They were the same as the Highborn were in the Night Elf society back 10,000 years ago during the War of the Ancients. So the Blood Elves, the Highborn, were the followers of Ashara, the queen of the Night Elves. And one of these followers, and one of the Highborn, were Dath'Remar Sunstrider. Now, he actually betrayed his queen and followed the Night Elves and helped them out, the common folk, I mean the ones that weren't Highborn, the ones that couldn't use magic. He helped them and fight against the Legion and fight against the Ashara during the War of the Ancients. And afterwards, the Highborn, if you haven't watched the videos previously, the Highborn, they were tapping into the power of the Well of Eternity, which was in the middle of the Kalimdor continent, which was the continent that was giga huge, a combination of all of these separate ones back in the day, and it gave them magical powers of the arcane that gave them strength. But as a consequence of the War of the Ancients, when Ashara tried to summon Sargeras into Azeroth, the Maelstrom was a consequence of that, and the sundering of the world as the Well of Eternity was destroyed. They had to make it implode upon itself to hinder Sargeras from entering the world. But Illidan, the betrayer, Illidan Stormrage, the brother of Malfurion, as we've heard about a lot, the druid, Illidan, he stole 3 vials, I believe, with the water from the Well of Eternity. And he tried to make another one up here at the Mount Hyjal, top of Mount Hyjal, next to the Nordrassil. The giant tree here. That's the little lake down there. We can see that since I have been to the zone. Amazing. But yeah, this is what granted the Night Elves eternal life afterwards, since the tree got blessed by the dragons known as Alexstrasza, and it was also blessed by Nosdormu. These guys, however, Dath'Remar and his followers of Highborns, they were greatly punished as a consequence of the War with the Ancients, because they had, of course, sided with the demons, except for the fact that this guy, Dath'Remar, he changed his mind and actually did decide to turn his back on the other Highborn towards the end of the war. So they were exiled to leave Kalimdor, leave the cities of the Night Elves. And eventually they traveled over here to they took some boats and they traveled all the way up here to this new kingdom on the opposite side. They wanted to basically distinct themselves as much as possible from their previous cultural heritage, to discern themselves and get a new cultural identity, one could say. So they tried to remove all the symbolism with the Elune, the moon goddess. Instead, they turned towards worshipping the sun. Well, they have sun symbolism. And before they went on the journey, they stole one of the vials of we see this guy here, one of the vials of Illidan, and they took the vial with the source of this magical energy, and they put it up on this little island here. Oh, let's just stop here and have a look at this thing up here. The Isle of Quel'Thalas, and right here they created what is known as the Sunwell, which gave the Blood Elves, or the High Elves, as they decided to call themselves. They went from being Night Elves, the Children of the Stars, the Kaldorei, to becoming High Elves, known as the Keldorei. That's why this place is called Quel'Thalas, the Quel'Dorei. And they got really, really long lifespans as a consequence. They basically tried to create another version of the Sunwell, the Well of Eternity, by creating the Sunwell. And here we can see the beautiful, beautiful city of Silvermoon, which they created here during the time span of about 7,000 years when they lived here. Pretty amazing looking place. And as a consequence, for this exile journey and the creation of this huge, amazing area, Dothramar was kind of revered as a leader. Now, he had several other sons as well. I'm not sure if his son was actually the father of Kael'thas, since they have so long lifespans, but anyway. Further down in the line, Dothramar died, and one of his descendants started to take over. His name was Anasterian Sunstrider, which is the father of Kael'thas Sunstrider, and they lived here and prospered. Here are the current leader of the Blood Elves, the Regent Lord of Quel'Thalas. This is Lord Thamar Theron, a really important character. He used to be a ranger along with Sylvanas. He was actually under Sylvanas' command during the time before the fall of Quel'Thalas. His Magister Romath here, his companion basically. Also Halduran Brightwing, the Ranger General currently. Remember that Sylvanas used to be one of these guys, one of the Ranger Generals, along with this guy. He was also a Ranger, and also, I think... Yeah, that doesn't matter right now. There's also a portal back here to takes us to Undercity if you want to take that one, which I would recommend if you level a Blood Elf. I would recommend that you immediately go over to Tirisfal Glades and start leveling there, just to avoid some lore talk here. But man, this place is such an amazing zone. I love these guys just standing there. The Guardians. So what happens next after the whole process of settling here and prospering basically next to the Sunwell? They started to dabble into magic arts, of course. They kept using magic that the Night Elves had stopped using. And consequently, they drew the attention of other people that lived here. In this zone, especially here, were lots of trolls, forest trolls, especially down here in an area called... Zul Aman. The forest trolls were kind of vicious, and they waged war against the elves, the high elves, for a very long time, and that's why they needed those ranger generals and the rangers out in the woods to fight the trolls. The reason why the trolls are there actually has quite a big lore significance, kind of similar to the origins. It's tied to the origin story of the humans, but it's also tied to the lore of Tirisfal Glades, which is interesting. But they fought with the trolls, and afterwards they kind of got their... Well, they started to have trouble with fighting the trolls, and they eventually got the help from the humans, and the humans agreed to help them fight the trolls if they could teach them magic. So the Blood Elves, the High Elves, taught the humans, 100 human mages, the power of sorcery. And together they fought against the trolls, and they started what was, the first alliance, basically. That was lots of time ago, hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, I believe, in the timeline, at least. This was like the first human settlement of Strom and Arathor, timeline back all the time ago. So eventually though, Arthas kind of messed things up a bit with his Undead Scourge right here, and during the campaign in the Warcraft 3, the Reign of Chaos, he turned undead after fighting Frostmourne up in Northrend, and he returned here to basically resurrect his companion Kael'thas. Kael'thas was one of the followers of the original Lich King. He was a mage in Dalaran, a high member of the council of the Kirin Tor, and he basically betrayed his own people and turned to follow the Lich King instead. But Arthas killed him, and when he killed him on his way up to fight the plague in the Eastern Kingdoms right here. Then Arthas went to get Frostmourne, and he came back here to resurrect Kael'thas. And to do that, he had to get the power of the Sunwell. So he went up to the Sunwell and he resurrected his buddy, and that basically destroyed the entire well, the source of the Blood Elves or the High Elves' powers, basically. And he also killed an Astarian Sunstrider, who wielded the mage, the Fire Mage legendary, or I guess artifact weapon, and fellow Malorn. So basically, the king back then was an Astarian, but he was murdered by Arthas. Sylvanas, the leader of the Ranger Generals, was killed off and turned into the Banshee Queen. And Arthas came up here and he resurrected Kael'thas. So that's that part of the storyline. Afterwards, the Blood Elves, who were still alive after the battles and the war and the fall of Quel'Thalas, they had this, I guess they went into remission because they were still addicted to this magical energy that was no longer available to them. They were kind of drunk on power, literally and figuratively, I guess. So as you can see, this is dead scar here is what the Scourge actually created when they went up here during the war, or the fall of Quel'Thalas, invasion more precisely. The reason why the Arthas and his Scourge army actually managed to get into to Quel'Thalas was because they were betrayed, of course, by a simple high elf named I think his name was Drek. What's his name again? Oh my god, he is down here. We'll find him eventually down in the Ghostlands. Darth. Oh, it's so annoying. I have it on my tip of my tongue, but oh well. So they were betrayed, and that's how they got past all these gates here and into the kingdom. So as a consequence of all the death that followed the invasion and the fall of Quel'Thalas, they decided to name their people after the blood of the fallen. They called themselves Sindorai, the Blood Elves, basically. Elves of Blood. Ooh, that's dramatic there, kind of going into emo territory. The current king was, of course, dead, and the prince had to take over as the leader. And the prince's name was Kael'thas Sunstrider, and he was a member of the Kirin Tor as well, similar to what Kael'thas had been. They have so similar names as well; it gets confusing. Here we see some statues here. This place is kind of nice, Tranquillian. I love the name as well. Tranquillian, sorry. Where was I? Got distracted by all this beauty here and some bats and undead. What is going on here? So Kael'thas was the son of Dothramar, and he was the king of the Blood Elves, the leader, or the Blood Elves at this point. And he decided to find a cure to this remission, this sickness due to the destruction of the Sunwell. So he tried to do this by allying with the humans and helping them out in basically fighting the Scourge. This is the campaign for the humans during the Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne campaign, I believe. Here we see some Ziggurats. The Scourge is currently, remember that the timeline in this zone here is still back in 2007, so that's why there's still Scourge around here and stuff like that. So what happened was that the Blood Elves, Kael'thas kind of got desperate into finding this cure. That's why these people have green eyes. If you see there are some high elves in the game as well. For example, in Dalaran, you have one of the sisters of Sylvanas, actually, next to Ronin. Actually, back in previous Dalaran. I don't think she's around in the new one. I'm not certain yet, because Legion isn't around when I currently record this. But there are still high elves around. They are people that are not tied to the Sunwell. They don't have the remission. Their eyes aren't green. because consequently the Blood Elves started to tap into life energy, fel energy, as a consequence, or as a kind of a, I guess that's why they are as a green, like fel energy, like the demons have. They try to do that and utilize that magic energy instead of the ones from the Well of Eternity or the Sunwell, which is arcane energy. The two opposites, basically. Arcane is symbolizing order, while fel energy symbolizes chaos. So this also made some of the Blood Elves really erratic and dangerous. You can kind of see the parallel here to like narcotics and remissions and stuff like that when you don't get your drug. And that's a really cool idea. I like that one. I like that link there and the inspiration for the elves. As we approach the end of the Ghostlands here, we can see some this huge wall of the Scourge. See some huge presence here still lingering after the invasion and the fall of Quel'Thalas. So Kael'thas decided he told his people, he left Lord Thamar in charge, and he told his people that I'm going to find a cure and I'm going to lead you into paradise. And he, along with some of his followers, followed Illidan Stormrage, the guy that had given them the Sunwell before. Now Illidan was heading into Outland. He was going to fight the Lich King and destroy the Frozen Throne. This was during the Frozen Throne campaign. And Kael'thas was bent on revenge. And he actually did manage to restore the Sunwell, unfortunately. And he kind of got desperate back in the Burning Crusade, the Burning Crusade expansion. And still, a lot of this lore around what happened during Outland is kind of still a little meager, but oh well. So that's what happened with the Blood Elves. Afterwards, of course, the rest of the Blood Elves that didn't follow Kael'thas, they joined the Horde instead, because they have Darkon. That's his name, Darkon, the Eye of Darkon. I think he's down here, isn't he? No. Huh. I haven't done this quest in a long while, but oh well. The rest of the elves joined Sylvanas. Sylvanas is, of course, she was a high elf, and that's why they were kind of closely tied. In addition to the geographical closeness, it was advantageous for the Blood Elves to join the Horde instead of the Alliance. Even though the closeness between the Alliance and the Elves, the Blood Elves, is kind of still fairly close. I mean, there are several high elves that are still members of the Alliance, I believe. Still fulfilling their old pact. Hello. Still fulfilling their old pacts to their people. And they fought together with the guys that joined the Horde, fought with the Horde, and eventually they wound up here. Yeah. That's basically the storyline for the Blood Elves. Kind of tightened up. It was a bit messy trying to explain everything, but yeah, they were Night Elves. They stole a vial of energy, created the Sunwell, and I almost forgot to talk about how the Sunwell was restored. So during the Burning Crusade, we had Kael'thas basically turned on the rest of his people, and he tried to summon Kil'jaeden, one of the leaders of the Kil'jaeden the Deceiver, one of the leaders of the Burning Legion. Oh my god. Into Azeroth via the Sunwell that was restored by the Blood Elves that remained here. This is really confusing. But yeah, and we stopped him together with the Shattered Sun, one of the sub-factions of the Blood Elven people. Which was great. So he basically decided to betray Illidan at the end of Burning Crusade, joining the Burning Legion, which were enemies of the Lich King at this point. So that's probably like the inspiration as to why he did it. But yeah. So try to summon Kil'jaeden into the world. But they failed, and with the help of Velen, the leader of the Draenei, they used the power of a fallen Naru, who sacrificed himself to bring life back to the Sunwell. That's what you heard at the intro cinematic there. This is one of the gates that Darkon helped the Lich King breach through. And this is also the loading screen that brings us out into the other world, I believe. Well, it's at the end here. This place is really never explored at all. But yeah. So what happened was that the Sunwell is now restored, but they are a bit more, it's infused with holy energy now, in addition to this arcane energy. So that's why the Blood Elves have Paladins. Paladins used to have, there's the loading screen. Paladins used to, the Blood Elf Paladins back in Burning Crusade used blood magic, blood power to wield the holy magic. They forced Naru to give them their powers, but it turned out that Naru was actually giving them the power voluntarily because it wanted to help them out, because it felt sorry for the Blood Elves. The Narus, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that already, are beings of pure light, and it is speculated, or I think it's confirmed right now, that Elune, the source of this light, created the Naru somehow. Or maybe Elune is a Naru. I can't really remember the details on that, but yeah. Whoa! So now they have the power of the Holy Light, they have Paladins, they have power of the Arcane, and the Blood Elves are doing all they can to rebuild Silvermoon, rebuild Quel'Thalas, and get back their former glory with the aids of the Horde. Oh, that sounded horrible. With the help of the Horde. Yeah. That's the story of the introduction story for the Blood Elves. I'm sorry if this was kind of weird. I'm just running around showing you guys the lands of the Elves and talking about this. Leave it in the comment section if you want to tell me what you think about this kind of thing, because I will be doing the same thing with the Draenei and the Draenei starting zones, because they are also similar to this one, stuck back in time. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and share it with your friends. And also stay tuned for the next episode, as we will be delving into the Draenei and their lore. So see you guys then, and have fun. Bye bye.